And to December 5th hearing of an application seeking to put on hold takeover of Merchant Bank by private equity fund Fortis.
Well, that very disagreement between the FDA and Tobinco Pharmaceuticals, Parliament seemed to have weighed in and called for some truce in the standoff between the two entities.
And Tobinco is requesting for some godly intervention against actions by the FDA and it says collapsing the company.
Well, President John Mahama says all critics are welcome, but they should be more circumspect and they should exhibit a lot more decorum.
We'll bring you the details of the news shortly. Stay on.
Now, first story, we have to take you to the court as an Accra fast-track court has adjourned to December 5 hearing of an application for an injunction against the takeover of Merchant Bank by Fortis Private Equity Fund. The Center for Freedom and Accuracy, led by its executive director, is seeking the injunction because it believes the state, which through SSNIT owns a majority stake in the bank, is not getting a fair deal. The hearing was adjourned to enable SSNIT enter an appearance.
Addressing journalists shortly after the adjournment, the executive director of the CFA, Andrew Awuni, condemned comments by Central Bank Governor Dr. Kofi Wampa yesterday. He suggested that the possible sale of Merchant Bank to Fortis is not dependent on whether or not the transaction is profitable, noting that governor's language was poor in taste. He said the Bank of Ghana also appears to have bent over backward to set aside all set criteria to pass the Fortis deal. He also questioned why the Fortis deal was approved after just 2 months of the central bank to now ask the new owners to present a business plan for Merchant Bank for sale has already indicated, contrary to the claim making rounds, it satisfied all the necessary stipulated conditions required in such transactions.
Tobinco Pharmaceuticals, the company embroiled in a row with the Food and Drugs Authority, has now resorted to spiritual warfare to overcome its current predicament. The company's workers, numbering over 200, gathered Thursday morning to, as they described it, seek the face of God against evil powers threatening their existence. The prayer session was said to have been replicated in all branches of the company across the country. Well, we had the news team that followed up on what was said to be a massive demonstration by the staff of the company that has been in the news for some time now, only to realize it was a religious event.
The crew was following up on what was said to be a massive demonstration by the staff of the company that has been in the news for some time now, only to realize it was a religious event. According to the company's representatives, the prayer session became necessary, having failed to convince the FDA to let them resume normal business, even though they've satisfied all their requirements. So clad in red, the staff prayed intensively for more than 2 hours. It appeared at some point that the regulator, the Food and Drugs Authority, became the target of the spiritual salvos. One of the worship leaders then assured the staff their prayers had been heard.
The Lord is saying that they shall restore it. Everybody shout a restoration. A restoration.
One of the organizers dismissed suggestions they should have rather concentrated their efforts elsewhere.
As concerned staff of Tobinco, from where we sit, we realize that our management have complied with all the directives that were laid down by the FDA, yet they are not allowing us to work. And naturally, we are concerned as a group because from September, we report to work and we don't work. We just sit down and at the end of the month, we are paid. So naturally, we are all concerned. And the question on our lips is, for how long is this issue going to drag on? Because we know that it is not sustainable, that you don't work and you are receiving payment. So a time will come when management will be fed up and they might ask us to go home. We don't want it to come to that. So we decided to put together this vigil to pray to God, for first of all, to thank Him for His mercies, to thank Him for how far He has brought Tobinco as a company, and also to ask Him to intercede.
The ongoing feud between Tobinco Pharmaceuticals and the FDA was sparked by the importation of some drugs which were found to have been distributed on the market without the approval of the regulator. The company's warehouse have currently been shut in ongoing investigations into the operations of the company. But Tobinco is convinced the FDA is simply witch hunting. Apart from initiating a legal suit, the president has been petitioned to intervene, and the Ministry of Health inquiry into the matter is due out next month.
Parliament has called for a ceasefire in the standoff between the Food and Drugs Board and pharmaceutical company Tobinco. The Parliamentary Selected Committee on Health, in a statement signed by the chairman Joseph Yele Chire, issued on Thursday, said it was undertaking an inquiry into the matter, describing the media war as unnecessary and unhelpful. I'd like to read you the entire statement.
Well, Deputy Information Minister Felix Kwasi Ofosu has said President Mahama welcomes criticisms of his administration so long as they're done in a decent manner. Addressing journalists at the Flagstaff House here in Accra, he also announced the president will be in Takoradi next week to cut sod for work to begin on the expansion of the Takoradi port.
It is not practical to expect that everybody will have the opportunity to speak to the president at every time. There are several mediums through which as many people as possible can communicate with the president. Of course, interactions on radio phone-in programs, political discussions, social discussions, focusing on the economy and other sectors provide an avenue for collating feedback, as it were, from people. And that the discussion may not necessarily be geared towards providing an interface between the president and the people, but certainly the feedback that one gets on government's programs and policies will be picked up and forwarded to the appropriate quarters. The president recently announced the creation of an online portal for complaints from the public relating to the conduct of public officers, vis-a-vis corruption and what have you. That is also one platform that, when it comes up, will provide an avenue for those who are ICT inclined to use that medium to get direct access to the president in terms of feedback and complaints on what they perceive to be the conduct of public officials.
Residents of Nima and Mamobi here in Accra are being blamed for the delay in completing the major drain being constructed through the two suburbs. Some youth of the town recently embarked on a violent demonstration to demand that government complete the project. But the news conference to dissociate themselves from the demonstration, executives of the Ayawaso North and East constituency of the NDC said the project has suffered delays because of the youth of the area have not allowed contractors to work.
The irate youth on November 18 marched through the streets of Nima and Mamobi to protest the delay in completing the project, which they say is making life unbearable for them. They also complained that the project, as it is a threat to their lives, especially that of their children, and demanded progress, lest they stage an even larger protest. Chairman of the Ayawaso East constituency of the NDC, General William Olabode, however, says though lack of funds is a major challenge confronting the project, the actions of sections of the youth has not been helpful. According to him, the contractor has been chased out of the area several times.
After the agitations, after the demonstration, the contractor was at the site and he was chased out. We got information. He was chased out by the irate youth. And we know the agenda. Some of them have a hidden agenda against the MP. I will not hide it.
He, however, assured members of the constituency they are working closely with stakeholders to address the issue and to see to the completion of the drain.
And we are making frantic efforts. We are not relenting. The executives are making efforts. The MP himself is moving about, making efforts in making sure that the drain is completed. I want to assure the good people of the community that within the shortest possible time, and I hope with confidence, that the drain will be completed.
The executives also dissociated themselves from the youth who embarked on the demonstration, stressing they did not have their support and want those involved to put a stop to it. A report by Matilda Wemega.
The 2014 annual New Year School at the University of Ghana will focus on leveraging ICT to promote quality education. The organizers also announced the annual gathering will, over the next 5 years, also focus on ICT. Next year's event is scheduled to begin on Sunday, January 5.
Director of the Institute of Continuing and Distance Education, Professor Yao Ohinibasichi, believes the focus on ICT will enable participants to brainstorm in adopting new technologies aimed at improving the living conditions of Ghanaians.
For the next 5 years, our broader theme is ICT and national development. So out of that theme, the first in the series we'll be looking at is the focus on education. After that, we'll be focusing on health, ICT and health. Then the following year, we'll be doing ICT and government. And then we'll be doing ICT and youth and business. And we'll be doing ICT and agriculture. Then in the 6th year, we will look at all the achievements and benefits and challenges for the series that we've been running.
This 2014 New Year School, he explains, will be different from previous years because participants will have hands-on practical training in ICT besides the usual group sessions.
After the symposium, the lectures, the breakup sessions, and the small group discussions, we'll take them to a physical location, which is the ICT lab of the University of Ghana. And we'll have breakup sessions. During the registration, we'll let people sign up for particular areas that they are interested in. We have about 5 or 6, and then we'll give them an opportunity to go to a lab and feel the benefits, and then also part of the challenges and the frustration, because it's all part of the learning process. And we hope that after the demonstrations, they'll be more excited, and then they'll go back and on their own begin to continue and pursue the various opportunities that are out there.
Professor Sichi also spoke about the impact of previous conferences and why participants must attend.
There was the launching of separation of waste. Okay, this was one of the recommendations we made January 2013, that we should begin to separate waste so we can manage it well.
Participants in the 2014 New Year School are expected to be mostly members of the academia and the IT fraternity.
Well, so that'll be it for the news on the AM show this morning. Now, just a recap of our top stories.
Court adjourned to December 5, hearing of an application seeking to put on hold takeover of Merchant Bank by private equity fund Fortis.
Parliament has waded into that very disagreement or standoff between the Food and Drugs Authority and Tobinco Pharmaceuticals, calling on both sides to call for a truce.
And Tobinco is now requesting for a godly intervention against actions by the FDA.
Well, you all watched that very story when they were praying massively. But talking about prayers, President John Dramani Mahama says he needs all the prayers he can get. But if you want to criticize him, you can, because you're welcome.
Up next is sports. Stay on.
We'll be right back.